Hiyashi Hyuga was a man who was raised from birth to become both a strong ninja and a politician. A man who could hide his feelings under a mask and take action purely based on cold logic. The perfect clan leader. And at this moment, he did need to hide his feelings. Feelings of nervousness, of plans becoming undone. Hiyashi Hyuga, despite much evidence to the contrary, loved both his daughters. Above all else, he wanted to save them from the fate that befell him and his younger twin brother Hisashi. Of one being forced into servitude to the other because of the way their clan was structured. Under normal circumstances, Hanabi Hyuga would have long since been branded with the cursed seal. Yet one thing saved her from that fate. Her older sister's weakness. As long as Hinata stayed meek and maintained her reputation among the clan as a weakling, the succession was in doubt. And as long as the succession was in doubt, Hiyashi Hyuga had the excuse he needed to delay branding any of his children with the cursed seal. Hiyashi had, for this reason, not tried as hard as he should have to seek help for Hinata and build up her confidence. He had, on occasion, even done his part in undermining Hinata's confidence in the past. Hiyashi knew the solution couldn't be permanent. On the day Hanabi became an adult, a choice would have to be made. Hinata or Hanabi. In essence, all Hiyashi was doing was buying time in the hopes a better solution would present itself. And, well, if all else fails, then surely, kind and meek Hinata wouldn't mind being branded and serve under her younger sister. On the practice ring, Hinata launched a fury of gentle fist strikes on Hanabi, paralyzing her arms and effectively ending the fight. And the winner is Hinata, the referee of the little sparring match announced. Now please make the sign of reconciliation, both of you. How quickly things change, Hiyashi thought. Hinata, despite having the skills necessary, had always been reluctant to fight her much younger sister, which always resulted in her defeat. That was evidently no longer true. Oh, it wasn't like Hinata was being deliberately cruel to Hanabi or anything. The two still seemed friendly with each other, as evident by Hinata currently helping her younger sister back on her feet, and congratulating her on her good effort. She was simply no longer throwing her matches. Yes, Hinata still seemed to care about Hanabi to some extent. Yet she seemed to be the only one of their family for whom that was still true. Hiyashi was trained both as a ninja and as a politician. His career was based on reading people. And so Hiyashi could see the dislike in Hinata's eyes when she looked at any member of their family that wasn't Hanabi. Main and side branch both. Hiyashi would be bothered by the dislike he saw in his daughter's eyes towards himself. Yet on a personal level he actually preferred this over the fear he used to see in her eyes when she looked at him. He felt he deserved the dislike. That was on a personal level though. On a professional level, he feared what the result would be of naming a clan head that actively hated her own clan. That's not even mentioning the fact that Hinata may be even further compromised. Hiyashi was perfectly aware that Hinata had used Orochimaru's cursed mark in order to win her match against Sakura Haruno. Hiyashi had, after all, been watching the match with his Byakugan. A little smoke wasn't going to prevent him from seeing the final moments of that fight. And so the potential heir to the Hyuga clan both disliked her own clan and might be vulnerable to subversion by Konoha's most hated enemy. Add to that Hinata was still very unpopular with the branch houses for her actions against Neji. Yes, Hiyashi Hyuga was more than a little worried. The argument of Hinata is too weak to lead the clan, therefore we should delay making a choice, became weaker every time the two sisters sparred in the ring and Hinata won. Hiyashi could easily torpedo Hinata's chances of remaining the heir by bringing up her use of Orochimaru's cursed mark. But that would likely result in Hinata being branded immediately. He also feared that Hinata's positive feelings towards Hanabi might no longer survive if she was branded with a cursed seal because of her. The mere fact that she was willing to fight her seriously in the sparring ring suggested as much. I'm going to visit my friend in the hospital, Hinata said, notably not asking for permission as she would have done before the Chunin exams. Be back before dark, Hiyashi ordered. Everyone was on edge after 2 S-ranked ninjas had infiltrated the village last night. Sure, Hinata said offhandedly, and then she was gone. Once she was out of sight and he was alone, Hiyashi sighed and rubbed his temples. He had no idea how to deal with the situation. Hiyashi-sama, you wish to see me? Neji asked a few minutes later. He had been summoned on his orders. Hiyashi had, of course, been aware of Neji's disdain for his side of the family. It wasn't as if Neji had ever gone out of his way to hide it. He hadn't stopped it because a part of him felt like he deserved it. Neji's father had died for his sake after all. Neji had a right to be angry. Much of that anger had disappeared to be replaced by hopeless resignation. Hiyashi very much preferred the former. That it was his own daughter that had done this was not a pleasant thought. Hiyashi had always been searching for the right moment to share the tale, yet he feared the right moment was years ago. No special miracle was happening to right the wrongs in his family, so it was up to him to do what little he could. Neji, I think it is time I told you what really happened to your father. In a forest close to one of the many roads leading out of Konoha. Alright Naruto, now that you've signed the scroll, it's time for you to try the summoning jutsu. Use everything... Jiraiya stopped himself. He was curious just how big of a summon Naruto could get if she poured all of her chakra into it. But they were trying to stay at least a little inconspicuous while still so close to Konoha. It would be inconvenient if she managed to summon something like Gamabunta on her first try. She'd have to summon him eventually. As a Toad Summoner, it was imperative that she earned the Chief Toad's respect. But that could wait for now. Under normal circumstances, he would also be trying to teach her how to draw on the Ninetales' power while doing this. But considering recent events, he thought it better to let that sleeping fox lie. Don't get too crazy. Just use a reasonable amount of chakra and let's see what you get. Righto, Naruto said, and started making hand signs. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, and a bit of blood drawn from biting a lip. Summoning Jutsu! A puff of smoke, and then... Sup. I heard we'd probably be getting a new summoner. I'm fine with playing with you, kid, but it will cost you. I take payments in crickets, flies, or worms. Preferably baked. Naruto looked at Jiraiya, her look asking him for what she was supposed to do now. You're... Gamakichi, right? Jiraiya asked the toad, just to be sure. He hadn't seen this one since he was a tadpole. The one and only! And you'd best show me some respect, else my pops is going to beat you up. Your pops? Naruto asked. Uh-huh. My pops is the chief toad of Mount Miyabuku. Your dad's the chief. So does that make you a prince of some sort? Don't be ridiculous. Abso-freaking-lutely! Jiraiya and Gamakichi said at the same time. Jiraiya tossed a few bucks towards Gamakichi and told him to be on his way. As a toad summoner, he always had a few bucks on hand just in case any of his summons felt peckish. Alright Naruto, just how much effort did you put into that summon? Jiraiya asked. Not a whole lot. I was just testing the waters, as you told me. Well, maybe she could summon Gamabunta without help from the Ninetales after all. Jiraiya thought. So I'm a toad summoner now, yes? Naruto asked. Jiraiya snorted. Not much of one, but technically, yes. Jiraiya knew he was underselling it. Gamakichi wasn't much by himself, but for a first attempt that she hadn't even put a lot of effort into, it was impressive. Better than he had managed on his first attempt. As expected of Minato's legacy, he supposed. Does that mean that I can invite other people to become toad summoners now? Just like you did with me? Naruto asked. No Naruto, you can't immediately give the contract to Sakura as well. Jiraiya sighed. The girl in question perked up at the sound of her name. Sakura was sitting a ways off on some rocks. She hadn't really spoken a word since they had left the village, but Jiraiya thought she was slowly recovering, though he had nothing to base that off except his own instincts. Considering what she had been subjected to, that she might be recovering on her own was remarkable. If Jiraiya had to guess, he'd say it had something to do with Sakura actually managing to break free of the genjutsu on her own power. Naruto also still joined Sakura as her nightly cuddle buddy, since that did seem to help with the nightmares. Why not? Is there some milestone I need to pass? Some test? What do I need to do to get permission? Look, why don't we wait until Sakura is well enough to join this discussion, alright? If both of you insist, I promise to bring it up with the chief. I promise nothing though. The toads have traditionally limited themselves to one summoner per generation. Naruto didn't look pleased, but let it slide. For now. If it helps, this next technique I'm going to show you, you can share with whomever you consider trustworthy. An A-rank jutsu, developed by your father. Alright, Naruto said. You don't sound that enthusiastic. Jiraiya crossed his arms, almost pouting. Do you have any idea how lucky you are right now? Oh, it's not that, Jiraiya-sensei. I like the idea of learning new moves, but I'm just wondering. Well, Asuma-sensei told me it was bad to just be given new techniques like this. That in the long run, it was better to discover techniques on your own. Discovering your own style and stuff. A few months ago, I would have been all over a new jutsu like this. Now it just feels like I'm taking a shortcut. I know I'm supposed to grow strong fast, but still. That, Jiraiya thought, was an admirable attitude to have. He still found her concerns unfounded given the circumstances. Well, there's a lot more to this jutsu than just making a few hand signs. It will require some advanced chakra manipulation. Even if you never end up making use of this jutsu, the steps it will take to learn are likely going to be useful to you in the future. Take Hatake for example. His famous Chidori was partially built on this foundation. That seemed to waylay her concerns. Now, as a first step, I want you to watch me closely. 5 minutes later, Naruto was starting on the first step to learning the Rasengan. And 5 minutes after that, Naruto had gotten Sakura to start practicing as well. Jiraiya could tell Sakura was hindered by a recent trauma, but again, not as much as he'd feared. She was capable of following basic instructions, forming chakra and simple physical tasks. She just didn't talk much. It was actually kind of sad to see Naruto trying to hold a one-sided conversation with her. Still, Jiraiya got the feeling the social contact was actually speeding up Sakura's recovery. If they were lucky, Tsunade would only need to heal the girl's physical injuries by the time they found her. As for the Rasengan training, it was all very difficult and abstract without the proper equipment. At the first village they encountered, Jiraiya saw a chance to remedy that and buy some water balloons and rubber balls, as well as an opportunity for the girls to get some stress relief. I don't think I've ever seen this many people just, well, having fun, Naruto said. Her eyes were brighter than Jiraiya had ever seen them. Konoha is still a military village, so its festivals tend to be rather subdued in comparison to most normal villages of comparable size. Jiraiya explained. By all means, enjoy yourself. I've got some work to do in the meantime. Naruto tensed. You're leaving me and Sakura alone? Oh, right, it makes sense that you'd be worried about that. I doubt they followed you all the way over here after they were forced to flee. But just in case, why don't you summon Gamakichi to accompany the two of you? I doubt he'll be able to do much. He'll be able to warn the toads at Mount Miyabuku if anything happens, and they can inform me in turn. And if worst comes to worst, the elders have the ability to reverse summon you to Mount Miyabuku. Okay, Naruto said, and again looked at the festival. Jiraiya knew she had rarely left Konoha, so this was all kinds of new to her, and she clearly wanted to go and explore. But is this really alright? I mean, shouldn't I be training? Jiraiya sighed. I'm glad you're motivated and understand the severity of the threat you face. But you shouldn't put your life on hold for a bunch of assholes, no matter how powerful they may be. But... No buts! Jiraiya crossed his arms. As your sensei, and as your current guardian, Jiraiya added in his head, I'm ordering the two of you to go have fun. Don't worry, after we leave, I'll be working you so hard you'll be cursing my name within a week. And in his head, he added, You'll be forced to grow up fast, Naruto. For now, please just go enjoy being a child for a little while longer. Having fun, right. Naruto sighed. After everything that had happened, that wasn't as easy of a task as it might seem, but she admitted to looking forward to trying. She bit her lip, hard, and wiped the blood she had drawn with her hand and then performed the summoning. Sup? Back again? Do you have more? Ah, nice! Jiraiya was surprised when Naruto pulled out a small box out of her backpack. After seeing how you kept some bugs on hand, I decided to keep an eye out while on the road. Might as well try to get in good with my new partners, right? That was very wise of you, Kamakichi said, trying and failing to sound serious instead of simply gluttonous. Now what do you need me for? Well, I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of dangerous guys after me. If something happens, can you summon yourself back to Mount Miyabuku and warn people? Just how dangerous are we talking about here? Kamakichi asked nervously. Dangerous enough that I wouldn't even think of fighting them alone. That's why I need you to help keep me and Sakura safe. Please. Jiraiya saw Naruto stare at Kamakichi with her wide round eyes, and Kamakichi responded by puffing up his round belly and standing up to his full 4 inches. It looked more than a little ridiculous. And she's got him wrapped around her little finger, Jiraiya realized. They agreed upon a time and place to meet up and went their separate ways. So what's with her? Is she mute or something? Kamakichi asked. He was hitching a ride in Naruto's partially open backpack and was obviously referring to Sakura, who still wasn't saying anything and was simply being led by Naruto. Her name is Sakura. Remember those bad guys I told you about? Well, they would have already had me if she hadn't saved me, but she paid a price for it. Kamakichi asked for more details and Naruto gave them readily. The more she painted Sakura in a positive light, the more willing the Toads might be to working with both of them instead of just her. Anyway, now that Naruto was at the festival with Sakura and Kamakichi, she found herself somewhat overwhelmed. She saw food stands, simple games such as goldfish scooping and throwing balls. In the distance she heard singing and dancing. Under normal circumstances, she'd be asking her companions what they wanted to do. But considering that Sakura still wasn't talking and Kamakichi would probably never leave the food stands, it was all up to her. The first thing she did was buy 2 traditional masks for herself and Sakura. Sakura was already attracting some attention due to her dazed, not really that expression and the bandages covering her face, so hiding that would probably be a good idea. She bought a cat mask for Sakura and a fox mask for herself, just for the irony. She was also able to buy some cheap festival yukatas for both of them. After that, she decided to try out some of the simple throwing games. All she had to do was hit a bullseye with a ball enough times that she'd win herself a stuffed animal. Naturally, she succeeded, but she made it look so easy that the Stolskip asked her to remove her mask. Naruto did so, which revealed her Konoha headband. Sorry lass, but no ninjas allowed. I'd be out of prices in an instant, you understand? The Soul's Keeper said. Naruto sighed but nodded in understanding. Wait, you're a ninja? She heard someone call out. A boy she didn't know, roughly around her own age, and he was accompanied by several others, all also close to her age. Yeah, I guess we are, Naruto said, pointing towards her own Konoha headband. Naruto thought she could see stars appearing in the eyes of several of the group. That's awesome! Most of us have only heard stories about you, but to actually meet one and... "And you're like us," he said, clearly referring to their age. "What's it like?" Naruko felt herself smile at their enthusiasm. Sakura would always maintain a unique position now that Ino was gone, but Naruko was always willing to make new friends. "That's a bit of a complicated question. Say, are you all from around here?" Most of them nodded or gave some variant of, "Yep." "Then why don't I and my friends here join you? You can help us find fun stuff to do and I'll answer questions." "Friends?" the ringleader asked, looking over Sakura's shoulder. "Are there more of you?" "What, am I invisible?" Gamakichi shouted from Naruko's backpack, startling all the non-shinobi teens. Naruko smiled reassuringly. "This is Gamakichi, a sapient talking toad from Mount Miyaboku. Just roll with it." And that was that. It had been a while since Naruko had spent any significant amount of time around a large group of people close to her own age. Her regular get-togethers with her old classmates had stopped after the second stage of the Chunin exams. Naruko answered what questions she could. What did she have to learn in school? Several girls were interested in whether she had to diet in order to maintain her beautiful physique. Those questions were easy. Some were, of course, interested in whether she had any exciting stories to tell. Those questions were harder. The only really exciting stories she had were from the Chunin exams. For that event, she was only willing to share everything that had happened with her in detail up until the Forest of Death. After that, she summarized her adventures with, "I ended up kicking that Gaara guy's ass later." Naruko saw how everyone hanged on her every word and couldn't help but feel nostalgic. It reminded her of her later days in the academy, where she had also become the center of attention due to her great skill and talent. Sure, Sasuke had that too, but he was too shy for the spotlight while Naruko tended to like the attention. Then came a question she hadn't been ready for. "So how do I join?" Naruko opened her mouth but found that no words came out. First of all, she didn't know Konoha's immigration policy. Second, she really didn't think it a good idea for them to even try. "Why leave all this?" she asked, waving towards the revelry all around her. "Sure, it's fun now, but most of the time it's also boring. Nothing but hard work and monotonous chores." For the first time and with her cat mask still on, Sakura spoke. "Idiot." "What?" Thankfully, the one that had asked the question seemed more surprised than offended. Naruko did her best to calm tensions and explained that, given the chance, she'd gladly trade her life for theirs. Most didn't believe her. It seemed she had been a little too good in telling an exciting story. "If all else fails, I could become a traveling bard," Naruko thought in amusement. In the end, she realized that while these kids might talk of becoming ninjas, none of them seriously considered it. It was just an idle fantasy, and so long as it remained such, Naruko would leave it alone. Her unwillingness to cooperate did sour things with a few of them though. Things soured further when Naruko said she wanted to go see a puppet show that she was told would be performed soonish, which caused many to give her strange looks. "But that's just for kids. Why would you want to waste your time in that?" was the general consensus. Naruko insisted though, which caused her to finally leave the group, at least for a little while. Naruko chuckled humorously to herself. "Hey, are you alright?" Gamakichi asked. "Yeah, it's just... I feel old suddenly," Naruko said. "Well, they did say it was for younger children," Gamakichi pointed out. Naruko shook her head. It wasn't that she was too old for this little performance meant for kids. It was that the group she had just left, despite being around her age, seemed like they were too young to understand why she'd want to go watch such a thing, if that made sense. The performance was indeed meant for a younger audience, and Naruko made sure to keep her distance so as not to stand out and make things awkward. The story presented was extremely simplistic, a villain, a hero, and never any real doubt in who would win. Unreasonably optimistic conclusions and happy endings all around. It was a mentality she herself had still believed in a few months ago. It was a mentality she still tried to believe in, incredibly hard though that had become. for that is how the world should be. Cynicism was something Naruto knew and understood, but also didn't want to accept. Hence why such a simplistic tale appealed to her. Kamakichi enjoyed it too, but Naruto got the impression that he was a lot younger than her. And Sakura, she was still mostly silent. It was like a part of her still seemed stuck in the memory of Itachi's genjutsu. No, Naruto said, both to herself and Sakura. Huh? You didn't like the show? Kamakichi wondered. The show was fine, but you, Sakura. She poked Sakura in the chest. You're going to have fun here whether you like it or not. Naruto swore to herself that by the end of his festival, she would get Sakura to smile again. Dragging Sakura behind her, Naruto jumped back into the festival with new vigor and made sure Sakura participated. They joined a large folk dance, and due to their natural athleticism that comes from ninja training, drew quite a bit of attention and praise. While neither of the two friends could participate in any of the physical games due to the whole ninja thing, they could still watch and cheer or mock the others as they pleased. Naruto motioned towards several of the boys and asked Sakura to rate their looks on a scale of 1 to Sasuke. They went shopping for souvenirs, commissioned someone to draw a stylized painting of the two of them, and bought snacks, for once not caring about saving money. At the beginning of it all, Sakura still seemed hesitant, but slowly, Naruto saw more and more of her old spirit returning, which only encouraged Naruto to try even harder. She made a brief show of pranking people with a fake puppet talking show, where Kamakichi pretended to be a stuffed animal that Naruto was voicing. Everyone was quite impressed by her amazingly realistic male toad voice, and Sakura was chuckling at the antics. A few people even threw a couple of coins away for the act, which she split evenly with Kamakichi. They managed to meet up again with the kids from before, and Naruto showed them how to properly throw a projectile, which resulted in two of them winning the prize from the throwing game that she wasn't allowed to participate in. Lastly, Naruto got quite the ego boost from turning down a couple of boys that developed crushes on her. All in all, Naruto couldn't recall the last time she'd had this much fun. The depressing thought that Ino should have been here with him was overshadowed by the sheer relief that Sakura seemed to be doing better. The day ended with Sakura, Kamakichi and Naruto finding a spot on some stairs to sit and watching the fireworks which signaled the end of the festival. They watched the spectacle in silence. None of them had ever seen something like this. Oh, they'd seen fire jutsus, but nothing this aesthetically pleasing. Hey, if this is the kind of assignment I get with you as a summoner, then you must be the most awesome summoner ever. Kamakichi gushed. My little bro, Kamatatsu, is going to be so jealous when I tell him about this. If this is more Jiraiya's doing than mine. He gave us the day off and asked you to accompany us, Naruto said. All the same, I've decided that I like you. When I get home, I'll tell my pops to go easy on you when you meet him. Naruto thanked him and asked after this Chief Toad, and learned a little more about him, though Naruto suspected the picture Kamakichi was painting was colored by a child's admiration for their parent. Naruto turned to Sakura. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well. Sakura hummed a positive response. Good. I hope I've made things at least a little better. It's not just me, Sakura said, smiling. Huh? I've missed this side of you. The you from the academy. The you that's always smiling. The you that brought life and energy wherever she went. Naruto smiled sadly. It's not as easy as it used to be. After what we lost and everything that happened, it's just not as easy. But I am not Sasuke. If I've got the choice between being happy and not, then I'll try to continue smiling. She wouldn't hold on to her anger for Gaara anymore. Let that fire go out. If that made her selfish, to essentially declare the monster that was Gaara someone else's problem, then she'd just be selfish. She was tired of being miserable. There was a silence that stretched on. Naruto got the impression that Sakura was working up the courage to say something difficult. Naruto, do you think I should tell you what's happened to me? When I tried to rescue you, I mean. Golly, I don't know. I mean, I'm curious, like, I want to help, but I don't know what you need help with. But I also don't want to push. I guess, well, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. But if you think it will help, then I'm more than willing to listen. I'll take that as a yes, Sakura said, and shared everything with Naruko. From her desperate attack on Itachi, to waking up in an illusion, meeting fake versions of her friends and the subsequent torture of all three of them, and lastly, how she made Naruko commit suicide in order to break free. Granted, it was an illusionary version of Naruko, but for that trick to work, Sakura had embraced the illusion, and that Naruko was, for all intents and purposes, real to her. After Sakura was done, Naruko was sure she despised Itachi almost as much as Gaara. It feels like I killed you in order to free myself, Sakura said while hugging her knees. I don't know how real that me was, but I think you freed us all, not just yourself. You didn't kill me. Though that would have been a small price to pay, Naruko added in her head. You saved me. The real me. Sakura smiled wryly, and didn't seem convinced. At the time, I don't think I was thinking about anything except saving myself. In my head, I know I did the right thing, but in my heart, what I did felt cruel. Naruko didn't know what else to do but hug her. After Ino, which one of us focused on revenge, and which one of us focused on protecting what was left? After Hinata, which one of us got angry, and which one of us wanted to make up? You're smart, Sakura, but the idea of you being cruel of all things has to be the biggest chunk of total nonsense that I've ever heard. You saved us all, so thank you again. Naruko felt Sakura's body tremble as she started to sob into her shoulder. Yeah, let it all out. I'm here for you. Always. After a while, Naruko heard someone else sobbing as well and was reminded that it wasn't just her and Sakura here. Kamakichi? She asked. This is so beautiful! The tiny toad wailed. These are the bad guys that are after you, right? The ones that did this to your friend? Naruko nodded. Then we'll work hard so that the next time we see them, we tear them to fucking pieces and feed them to the worms. Language, Naruko chastised half-heartedly. But yeah, that is the idea. I don't know how you can help, but I'll make sure to call on you when I need you. See that you do, Kamakichi said and pointed with all the authority he could muster. Which, considering his small stature, wasn't all that much. Sakura's sobs mixed with short giggles aimed at the little toad before she got her emotions back under control. With the fireworks done, it was time to go to the hotel that they had agreed on and meet Jiraiya. The man claimed to have found some hint of Tsunade's location and to have bought some training equipment in the form of some balloons and rubber balls. Considering the lipstick on his cheek, Naruko suspected that it hadn't been all he had been doing, but she decided not to ask questions. Jiraiya, meanwhile, congratulated himself on his decision to give Naruko some time off. He could tell that she and Sakura felt lighter somehow, the burden on their shoulder feeling just a little less crushing. A day later, they had left the village to continue the mission to find Tsunade. It was inconvenient to work on a new jutsu while simultaneously traveling, but they made do. And Jiraiya took care of all the mundane chores, like setting up camp, giving the two Kunoichis more time to practice. There were 3 steps to the Rasengan, which if you oversimplified them, came down to control, power, and maintenance. Sakura got the first step of the Rasengan down incredibly quickly, which honestly surprised none of them. The first step, causing a water balloon to snap, was based almost purely on chakra control, which was something she excelled at. She was already working on the subsequent steps by the time Naruko was still struggling with the first. Sakura held one hand in front of her and it held a small spinning ball of chakra. See? Everyone that says that I'm just way more talented than you clearly doesn't know what they're talking about. Naruko gushed, excited at her friend's success. Sakura sighed and slammed her Rasengan into a tree. There were some scratching noises and then the Rasengan dissipated, leaving only a few scratch marks on the tree trunk. Nothing like the amazing finisher that Jiraiya had demonstrated. But just as easy as the first step came to Sakura, the second step, which was based on power, seemed just as impossible. Sakura's pseudo Rasengan notably hadn't exploded on contact though, as Jiraiya had demonstrated would happen if you had mastered the first and second step but not the third. Sakura's Rasengan had simply failed to grind away at the target. It was an example of someone that had mastered the first and third step of the Rasengan, but not the second. I don't think I'll be able to master this technique for many more years, Naruto. So the second step, power, doesn't come as easy to you. You've had such an easy time with the first step. Yes, I'm good at chakra control, Sakura says as if that didn't matter. But my chakra simply lacks the power that this Rasengan requires. It doesn't matter how hard I work on it if my chakra is simply too weak. Naruko wanted to say she shouldn't give up, but she also understood the reality of the situation. Sakura had a point. The strength and amount of chakra that a person had was mostly something you were just born with. It could be trained, but it was a slow process, and would likely never make up for naturally born gifts. Chakra control was comparatively much easier to train. Talent still mattered, but hard work could much easier compensate for the lack of it. It was just one of the reasons why Naruko, with her large reserves, was considered a prodigy with a great deal of potential, while Sakura, with her near-perfect chakra control, wasn't. It's just not fair, Naruko thought. If she could just give Sakura half of her natural reserves, she would do so in a heartbeat. Don't look so glum, Naruko, Sakura said. This is an old problem for me. I'll continue looking for things I can do, but this... Sakura grabbed one of the rubber balls and tossed it away. This just isn't working for me. I know my limits, and I cannot do this. Not yet. Naruko still looked more upset about this than Sakura. Enough moping. I may not be able to do this myself, but I can still help you learn it. Maybe. Try again and tell me exactly what you're doing. Jiraiya paid close attention and was somewhat impressed by Sakura's knowledge of chakra theory. The right or left swirl of a person's chakra was an exoteric bit of knowledge that rarely came up in practice. Beyond that, Naruko got tips on spinning the water in her balloon in all directions. That was already more advice than Jiraiya would have given her, since he would prefer that Naruko figure all of this out herself. But he couldn't exactly complain when the tips came from Sakura. Sakura had figured out how the Rasengan was supposed to function. She just lacked the power to pull it off, but that didn't hinder her in explaining it to someone else. It helped that Naruko's chakra control wasn't that bad either. With Sakura's help, she soon got the water balloon to pop, and Naruko's chakra was strong enough that exploding the rubber ball also wasn't that far off. After that though, the third step seemed to stomp Naruko. It required her to maintain both the power of the second stage as well as the control of the first stage for a prolonged period of time. It's no use! I can do one or the other, but not both at the same time, Naruko complained to him. Stop whining and keep practicing, Jiraiya said. You've already progressed far faster than anyone else that has ever attempted to learn the Rasengan. It's considered an A-rank jutsu for a reason. You're doing fine, lass. Just give it time. Time? Yeah, right. Jiraiya sighed. No matter how hard you try, you aren't going to be able to compete with the strongest ninjas in the world after just a week of training. Try not to worry so much. Motivation is good, desperation less so. You have time yet. They reached Tanzuku in the evening of the next day. Tanzuku was the city where Tsunade was last known to be headed. Its most notable feature was a large castle that towered over any other building in the city. It was a holdover from a time where the shinobi arts were less commonplace, and there was more value in such fortifications. Considering the large amount of gambling dens that Jiraiya also knew to be in the city, Tsunade would likely be stuck here for a while. Hopefully she wouldn't lose all her money and be forced to flee too quickly. As was the usual modus operandi, Jiraiya first went looking for the most seedy looking bar in the neighborhood. Pay attention, girls, this is where the best rumors can be found. Though unless you want to drop a decent chunk of money, it takes a true master of subtle interrogation and social manipulations, such as myself, to pry it loose. Just keep your heads down and observe as I try to find... Jiraiya paused in the door opening and stared numbly at one of the tables. Tsunade? Jiraiya? Came the equally confused reply from one of the two women seated at the table. Naruto looked at her. Surely this couldn't be... Tsunade! Jiraiya pointed dramatically. Naruto looked from the 50-year-old man that was her current mentor to the woman who was supposed to be an old teammate of his. She didn't look a day over 30. She also had the biggest cleavage that Naruto had ever seen, but that was neither here nor there. I'm glad we found you, Jiraiya said, and without waiting for permission, he joined Tsunade at her table and beckoned Naruto and Sakura to do the same. Go ahead and order whatever you like, my treat. Naruto sat down next to Jiraiya and Sakura next to Naruto, opposite the pig that seemed to be a part of Tsunade's group. Hello? Sakura tried to greet the pig uncertainly. Oink! Came the reply. Her name is Tomtom, and I'm Shizune. Pleased to meet you, Tsunade's companion said. Considering her recent exposure to the toads, Sakura's false assumption that the pig could converse in human language was understandable. Sakura Haruno. Naruto Uzumaki. We're pleased to meet you. The two friends introduced themselves. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at Naruto's last name. Yeah, she has definitely at least heard of me, Naruto realized. New apprentices of yours, Jiraiya? I thought you'd have learned your lesson by now. Jiraiya flinched at that remark. Never mind that. Let's eat first and then talk business later. Business, huh? Figures. Neither of you visit me unless you want something. Neither of you... What you talking about? Naruto wondered. Questions like that had to wait though, since, as Jiraiya said, they would first eat dinner. Still, Naruto could understand putting heavy topics on hold, but the silence with which they ate was downright awkward. Tsunade was obviously drunk, and seemed to be stuck in her own thoughts, and her companion couldn't quite hide how nervous she was. Alright, enough with the suspense, Tsunade said, absently twirling an empty bottle with her finger. What do you want from me? Jiraiya cleared his throat. The village of the Leaf has issued a request for you to be the 5th Hokage. Tsunade grimaced. So Orochimaru wasn't just bragging after all. Ah, so he did come to you, Jiraiya said as if this wasn't a surprise to him. What did he want from you? Tsunade took a long time to answer. Nothing much. We were both in the neighborhood and he wanted to brag, gloat, mock. You know how he is. Even Naruto realized that was a lie. Nobody called her on it though. I heard our old sensei did a number on him. Orochimaru lost the use of his arms. Can you confirm that? A bit of sobriety seemed to return to Tsunade's eyes. You're exceedingly well informed. Jiraiya grinned. That is my job, princess. But to get back to the matter at hand. The Leaf Village, in its wisdom, has decided to name you the 5th Hokage. Pass. Jiraiya smiled nostalgically, seemingly unconcerned. That reminds me of the first time I ever asked you out. Yet you never stopped asking, and I never stopped declining. You'll have no better luck now. You can return to the Leaf Village and tell those old geezers to find themselves another fool. There was a stretch of heavy silence for a while. "Oh well, that's just too bad," Naruto said. As disappointing as Tsunade's response was, the Hokage's position wasn't the main reason she had wanted to come. "But can you at least look over my friend here?" Naruto motioned towards Sakura. "What happened to her?" "She got hurt pretty badly in the Chunin exams. That's what the bandages are for. And 2 days later she got hit by a powerful genjutsu. While Sakura had gotten a lot better, the effects of the genjutsu were still noticeable in the way her mind seemed slower to respond these days, as well as the nightmares." "Let me see," Tsunade said, and reached over the table towards Sakura. But Naruto slapped her hand away and glared at her. "After you're sober." Tsunade glared right back. "Do you have any idea who I am? I could be drunk, sleep-deprived, dehydrated, and on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and I'd still be the best damn medic in the world." "That's nice and all, but my friend deserves your best." "Well, your friend isn't going to get anything from me anymore, and you can blame your own poor attitude for that." Naruto gritted her teeth. "I apologize, Tsunade-sama, but I need her to be okay. Please." Tsunade grinned smugly. "See? That wasn't so hard now, was it?" And this time, Naruto didn't stop her from examining Sakura. "Huh. The facial injuries are bad but will heal in time. The genjutsu though... Whose work is this?" "Itachi Uchiha's." "Huh. At first I was surprised at how nasty this looked. Now I'm just surprised it ain't worse. There's still some residual chakra stuck in her brain. I'll flush it out later. If I feel like it." "If you... feel like it?" "Yeah, and I guess it also depends on how much money you've got. I'm the best in the business, kid. My services don't come cheap." Naruto, being a genin for half a year and an orphan besides, didn't have a great deal of ready cash. "It's fine, Naruto. I don't need her help." Sakura put a hand over Naruto's hand, which was trembling with anger. "I'll recover on my own." "She's right. She's in no danger of dying, and will likely make a full recovery given time. All I can do is speed up the process. Hardly worth my time." "Bitch," Naruto spat out. "You can put on a respectful, polite act if it suits you, but you're just a rude brat underneath it all, ain't ya?" Tsunade said and turned to Jiraiya. "She's not nearly as cute as your last apprentice, and he was a boy." "You knew my father?" Tsunade quirked an eyebrow. "So you were told, huh? Yeah, I knew him. Brilliant, reliable, handsome, talented. He was the Leaf's golden boy. His coming was supposed to herald a new golden age. But the world isn't a fairy tale. He risked his life for the village, and when you gamble your life, it only takes one bad dice roll." Tsunade shook her head. "Even I know better than to take that fool's bet." Naruto thought back to the brief time she got to spend with her father's echo. His smiling face. "My father was not a fool!" "Then why isn't he alive, having secured a safe job somewhere, living with his beautiful wife and taking care of you, along with several of your brothers and sisters, which you likely would have had, if only he had been a bit smarter?" Naruto flinched back as if slapped, her mind briefly overcome by the picture Tsunade painted for her. Sakura stroked her back in an effort to comfort her. "That was a low blow, Tsunade," Jiraiya said, glaring at Tsunade. "I'm just trying to help," Tsunade said, actually sounding like she meant it. and again turned to Naruko. If you've got any sense, you won't try to follow in your old man's footsteps and continue a pointless battle. My grandfather, the second, the third, all of them worked tirelessly to protect the Leaf Village, and look at where we are now. We're hardly better off than we were a century ago. Well, that's just not true. Sakura spoke up. I know history. More people get the chance to live peaceful lives now than during the Warring States period. Isn't that worth fighting for? Maybe. Tsunade leaned back in her chair, clearly unconvinced. Doesn't mean that I have to be the one to do it. Sacrificing yourself for a village full of strangers? It's a fool's choice. They were all idiots. Naruko let loose a loud scream and hurled her plate and eating utensils at Tsunade, who battered all the improvised projectiles to the side with her chopsticks. My daddy wasn't an idiot! Then why isn't he still alive? Tsunade repeated with a smirk, but was ignored as Naruko continued to yell, her face red with emotion. Who are you to speak ill of him? You're just a drunken, burned-out husk of a woman, a stupid coward who doesn't know anything. Naruko, people are staring. Jiraiya hissed at her, but she was beyond caring at this point. You know perfectly well who I am. That's why you are so eager to get my help to look over your friend, and why they want to make me the 5th Hokage. Naruko still looked stricken. Yeah, we came looking for Tsunade of the Sunny, to help my friend, and also because me and Sakura just really wanted to meet you. You were a hero of ours, you know? Tsunade lowered her head, actually looking a bit sorry. There are no heroes in this world, child. Me least of all. My father was a hero. And now Tsunade looked to be losing her temper as well. So now you've got a dead hero for a dad instead of a live one. Congratulations. This seemed to be the last straw, and Jiraiya and Sakura now had to physically hold Naruko back from jumping over the table and attacking Tsunade. The bar's owner shouted at them to take it outside. You know what? That is an excellent idea, Tsunade said. What do you say, little girl? Want to protect your daddy's honor? You're on! Is this really necessary? Jiraiya said. Haven't you done enough damage, Tsunade? The girl seems to think she stands a chance because justice is on her side or something. I'm just trying to show her how little that's worth when faced with reality. As I said, I'm just trying to help. Naruko didn't think any such thing. She was so angry that her simple desire to punch Tsunade was as far as her thoughts extended at that moment. So, what are you trying to prove again? Tsunade asked when they were outside. That my father wasn't a fool. Ah yes, alright then. If you can land one hit on me, I'll admit that he wasn't a fool. And that dying for the village and leaving you an orphan to fend for herself was, in fact, the right thing to do. Bitch! Naruko snarled again, and was about to charge before Sakura called out to her from the sidelines. Naruko, please! This is pointless! Let's just leave. There's nothing for us here. Naruko looked at Sakura, and a bit of clarity returned to her eyes, and she remembered why she came here in the first place. No. If I can land a hit, you'll do whatever is in your power to help Sakura. Fine, and if you can't, you'll have to become my personal lackey for 3 years. Tsunade offered. Wait, now hold on just a minute. Jiraiya tried to interject. Naruko ignored him. Deal! She yelled and charged. Naruko! Sakura yelled out in worry. The initial direct confrontation between Naruko and Tsunade goes about as well as you would expect, with Naruko never coming even close to hitting Tsunade. She tried to use her hair to sneak in a hit, but Tsunade grabbed it and used it to hurl Naruko into a barrel of crates. Tsunade dealt with any long-range wind jutsus by grabbing part of the street and actually pulling it upwards as a makeshift shield. We didn't agree on a time limit, but we can't be here all night, Tsunade said. The next time you come at me, I'm knocking you out cold. Fine. Clone Jutsu. No, this isn't the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This is still just the ordinary Clone Jutsu. Are you for real? Tsunade said. To prove her point, she just pointed at the real Naruko amidst the illusionary copies. All of your previous efforts were amusing. This is actually insulting. Naruko and all of her clones jumped at their enemy. When she got close, she made another hand sign. Transformation Jutsu! She and all of the clones transformed in a puff of smoke, and out of the smoke appeared Reverse Harem Jutsu! Naruko yelled with a vicious grin, making the words sound like her enemy's death knell. Several dozen naked males appeared, all of them making sultry expressions and looking as if they belonged on the cover of a magazine. Tsunade's eyes glazed over for a moment, and in that moment of distraction, Naruko landed in front of her and launched an almighty kick right into the older woman's crotch. Tsunade let loose a scream of pain and slapped Naruko into a building so hard it knocked the girl unconscious. Naruko! Sakura screamed and went to check on her friend. Tsunade meanwhile had her legs closed and a hand covering her nether regions, completely livid at what had just happened. She wanted to inflict some more pain on Naruko, but she was already out of it. With her gone, Tsunade thought where Naruko could have gotten the idea for such a shameless jutsu, and subsequently reached a very logical, if completely inaccurate conclusion. Her eyes focused on her old pervert of a teammate. Jiraiya, she growled. Jiraiya gulped and saw his own doom in Tsunade's eyes. Wait, Tsunade Hime, I had nothing to do with... Die! Tsunade screamed and jumped at Jiraiya, causing the latter to flee for his life. It took him half the night and several close brushes with death for him to finally calm her down. And that's the end of part 25. Nikes out.